We know the casting director that did the Gran Torino. That's about Hmong people. That was a whole group that brought us out. That was our first JK gig.
Wow.
So the Hmong community has given a lot of love to JK.
Yeah.
And we want to give it back.
What
Yeah.
today's episode is going to be about,
His son.
it's all about Hmong people.
Hmong people.
What do we know about Hmong?
I'll be back. You guys talk.
But I think he knows the most though,
I think he does.
I think he's going to go get some.
because he actually lived in a Hmong village in Thailand. Huh?
Their culture was almost eradicated. That's what I do know.
I actually don't know very much.
Who knows the least? Because that'll be fun to tell them about.
I think that's me, dude.
Cool.
I think it's me, bro.
My only knowledge of Hmong people was the movie Gran Torino.
I don't know if that's the best source.
That's a great film.
You know, that's my only reference of Hmong people.
I know during like
don't
their
know
New
that. I don't
Year's,
know
they
that
like to
many.
fucking throw it down all the time.
Oh, dude, yeah.
There's always like these like videos of like in like Stockton and Modesto where they're just straight scrapping at like family events. Yeah.
In NorCal, there's a huge diaspora of them. There was definitely like a very large Hmong genocide where their like entire culture was nearly eradicated.
Really?
So let's start with that. Let's start with how do we know like Hmong people here in California?
I only know because the Twinjas on Kinjas are Hmong people.
Can I just stick up for the audience who maybe doesn't know what the fuck a Hmong is for a sec?
Yes.
What's a Hmong?
That's the thing. Yeah, let's start there.
So Hmong is spelled Hmong, and from what the very little that I understand, they're not even like they're not like bound by a country, right? Like they're a people that can be spread across different Asian countries.
But originally, they're like an indigenous group in China, right?
Yes, originally, okay, this is what Hmong people have told me is like, in the movie Mulan, the bad guys, that's their ancestors. When they lost the war, they ran away to Southeast Asia to hide out in the hills because the Chinese knew the emperor or whatever was trying to genocide them.
Oh, okay.
That is their history, right? I don't know what the actual like ancestral accounts are of them, but they are not of the people of Southeast Asia. So they are undocumented folks that live in the mountains of Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, all that. Yeah, and I'm getting some pictures here.
Have you heard people speaking Hmong?
Yeah.
And what does it sound like? Does it sound like closer to any of the other Asian languages?
I don't know how to describe it because I only hear it when Villain and Impact on the Kinjas get drunk, and then when they have to yell at each other, they speak in Hmong, and that's when like shit goes down. It's tight though.
Yeah, so the twins and Kinjas are both Hmong, and they're b-boys that are from up north, from Sac. And in Sac, they got whole Hmong b-boy crews, and they're dope.
Super dope.
Air steps.
Why are they dope?
Yeah, they're dope. They're just really good. They're just they're just like some of the top crews up there.
It says the Hmong people are an indigenous group in East and Southeast Asia. In China, the Hmong people are classified as a subgroup of the Mao people. The modern Hmong reside mainly in Southwest China and countries in Southeast Asia such as Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar.
So, do you think you'd be able to tell like who looks more Hmong than like someone that's not?
It just depends on what I'm comparing to. If you're like, one of these people is Hmong and then the other person's like Japanese, yeah, I can. If the other person's Korean, yeah. If the other person, you know what I mean? But if it's just generic Southeast Asia and you don't tell me one of them is Hmong, I'm gonna guess one of the other Southeast Asians by population density.
Yeah.
I know they got common last names, like you know how Vietnamese has Nguyen? They have like, I think it's like Vang or like Song or like there's like common ones they got, like Cha, I think that's one. But I didn't know any Hmong people in the States. Later on in life, after college, when we started traveling for JK, and they were booking us in different areas, because most of them, they don't live in major cities.
Okay.
Most of the Hmong people, they live in like farm towns in the country, like Fresno. I know there's a huge population out in Minneapolis. I know there's one out like in Detroit, Michigan, out in the South. And I don't know why, but I read up a little bit, and so during the Vietnam War, Hmong people actually helped the U.S. government because they're like they lived out in the hills, and they were also, I guess, getting discriminated against by the Viet Cong. So the Hmong folks worked with our like rangers, our army rangers, and helped us find pathways to attack the Viet Cong. Another one is, I think during the Cambodian genocide, they were targeted from Pol Pot's crew. So there's with that refugee of Vietnamese and Cambodians or whatever, Hmong groups came along with because they were on the side of the U.S. soldiers. And with that, I think they were dispersed around the U.S. But I didn't know they were in like California until way later on, where I'm like, oh, there's a huge community in Fresno.
Yeah.
What do you know about them, Ryan?
The only thing I ever knew was that they were very similar to another group I remembered. I before I knew anyone that was Hmong, I knew somebody that was Cham.
What is that?
It's like the Vietnamese version of Hmong, where like they are an indigenous group that was, you know, in some way persecuted, so they had to spread out. And they ended up in like all different parts of the world. And I remembered that there was this girl that I had met who was Cham, and she was like beautiful. But then her friends were like, don't even try, she's Cham. And I was like, what? Why? What is that?
Oh, it's just to stick to her
She
own.
has to stick to her own, yeah. Because there's so few of them that she has to marry another guy who's Cham.
Wow.
She was dope. And then after that, when I had learned Hmong, I always, like, most people will mistake it for Mongolian.
Yeah.
Because they'll just hear it and go, oh, Hmong, oh, it's Mongolian. They think it's like an abbreviation. And then someone was telling me like, oh, yo, you ever seen the Hmong B-boys? And I was like, Hmong B-boys? And then that's when we learned about air steps and like these all like Hmong B-boy crews up north. And then someone was like, yeah, they're like they said they're like the indigenous Asians of like Asia. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then that's when I learned it was very similar to Cham.
I remember hearing what Korean was with for the first time. And I was like, man, you just making shit up trying to be special. Because in my little like 5-year-old mind, I was like, there's only Chinese and Japanese. And I was like, the Korean, you're just fucking making shit up. And then I remember hearing Hmong again. I'm like, man, there's only Korean, Chinese, and Japanese. You're just making up Hmong to be special. And then I found out they're like a real thing. I was pretty disappointed.
He sounds bummed out.
I could also hear at like an earlier time too that like Hmong dudes were like tough. Like there were like a lot of Hmong gangs. Like very similar to like Long Beach and like Samoa.
Yeah.
They're very like you know, because they're you know, when you get spread out from another country, the same way that a lot of the Vietnamese immigrants were in some towns, like you end up having to be very protective of yourselves, and everyone's fucking with you. You live in a low income neighborhood, you know, and a lot of them ended up being like what you said, like you've seen Gran Torino, and you know that.
That's my only. That's the first time I heard about Hmong people.
Because I even asked Villain, like Vil from his crew back in the day, I'm like, yo, if you didn't start dancing, would you have like, your life would have been very different, huh? And he's like, yeah, it wouldn't have been, it probably would have been a lot more difficult.
So none of us knows much about the Hmongs.
None of us. Maybe
We have hella Hmong fans though. Because after, you know, we started getting called to these different schools and stuff. Like, remember when me, you, and David did that show out in Minneapolis, I think?
Yeah.
Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
It is Minneapolis. That whole group was a Hmong club. Those 300-something kids that came out.
Wow.
There was only a handful of like Chinese kids, but that was the Hmong community out there.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and then I know about them because the church we went to, they had a whole connection with Thailand, and they sponsored like this AIDS clinic where it was a lot of girls that were sold into trafficking.
Oh, damn.
And then when they were caught with STDs and AIDS and stuff like that, their brothels would just throw them away.
Oh.
And then, so our church had like this, like it was like a
Program?
Yeah, it was like they lived there. It was Christian, all this stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And you know how this SDA community is really deep into health, right?
Yeah.
So everyone becomes doctors, and so there was like a medical thing to give. And then they taught us about where these girls come from. So it was like a whole thing. We're gonna go build churches in their community.
Yeah.
And then so we went from Bangkok all the way to the border of Burma into a Hmong village. And these are the photos.
You lived in the Hmong
We
village?
lived in the Hmong village with Hmong people. I mean, you just could look at.
That's dope.
Yeah. And then I'll take these pictures and show them. You guys could do a slideshow. But
Oh my, hey Eddie, what the
yeah, so I mean, we were part of the church.
freaking guy?
I know.
They sponsored the trip. So we went out there to bring like money.
You guys will see him, I'm sure, supered on the screen. But
Yeah, that was the story of Uncle Drugs. He was a heroin addict or an opium addict. He lived in the back of the pastor's house, and the way they made money was they had an opium field.
Dude, fucking Joe,
And they were teaching us like this is the only way these guys can make money. There's no school, so that's why our church was building a church and building buildings for them to get educated.
dude. Wow.
Yeah. And then running water. They just built a well recently.
Yeah.
And then so we lived in there every single day. And then they're like, this is how they live.
how do you rate the Hmong seesaws? Are they pretty good? Pretty efficient?
These little kids were Hmong kids? Or
All of them are Hmong
These
kids.
kids are so cute.
Fucking cute.
Bro,
dude.
look at Joe, dog. These pictures of Joe are awesome.
And then so what they were teaching us is that like the way they find these girls is recruiters will come into these villages and be like, they know they're poor. So they'll be like, hey, is your son or daughter looking for work? And then they would basically get their daughters and say, we could take them to the city.
Yeah.
And then they can work.
Dude, these kids
whatever
are
they-
so
Do
cute.
they know what that means?
No,
They pull a switcheroo on them, yeah.
These villagers are fucking so sweet. They have no idea.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's child soldiers from the Burmese border, and a militia group, like a terrorist group from Burma, heard that there was a missionary group, and they came into the village, and there were guys my age at that time, 13, 14, with just massive guns that were bigger than them strapped to their arms, like in the back of pickup. So they came, and the village leader and the pastor, they all got together, and then they came with them agreement. But during that time, they told all of us to just stay in the house and wait. So we're just like peeking out, and I was like, this is fucking nuts. And then after that, you know, it was just a wild experience, right? Because like you don't know what is really like happening, what's good, what's bad. But they told us about the economy there is the only way that these guys can make money in these villages is because they're not documented citizens of Thailand. They're basically, these drug traffickers come and say, build these opium fields. And then when it's harvest time, they just sell it to them. These guys don't know. They think they're growing papaya. Like, they don't know. And then one of the guys, we call him Uncle Drugs, but he just smoked opium every fucking day.
Damn.
Yeah, and I'm in a photo with them. He's that dark dude. Like,
That's Uncle Drugs?
yeah, Uncle Drugs. And then their religion is witchcraft. Like, they do a lot of ceremonies and things like that. And I guess, like, the church was trying to help them educate, build an economy, have some type of stability so they can remove their dependency on drugs and selling off their daughters. Yeah. Because the daughters, they would say, like, they don't know that that's what's happening. What they're told by these recruiters is, yeah, you can go, because this does happen where they're like, hey, I'm gonna send my kid to the city, they're gonna get educated, they're gonna go to school, or they're gonna go work and then bring money back to the village, right? It happens all the time. But then these con artists will bring the girls, and then the girls will never come back because they'll be like all drugged up and ashamed of what they're doing. So then when we heard that shit, they're like, dude, this is some crazy shit. They didn't insulate us. Like, even though we were church kids, they're like, this is the fucking reality. And
Wow, they just gave it to you straight.
yeah,
They were like,
dude, they gave us, they told us everything. We met all the, it started with this, I think. I forgot, I'm kind of confused of the timeline. I was 14, but I remember we saw the whole process of where these girls come from and where they ended up. And we met them face to face. It was sad as fuck. Yeah.
Like factory farming? Like you saw the cow being slaughtered?
Huh?
Like you said you saw the whole process? You saw the end part where the chicks are getting taken to hotels and shit?
Oh, well, that's rampant in Thailand. There's like sex tourism. Just you see minors holding hands with adults walking around, like
Wow.
old guys. It's normal. It's out in the public. But and then that's funny because the way they have their taxis, they have these back of the pickup trucks with rails, and then these seats in the back.
That's the tuk-tuk
And then
that's
so
for.
we would be there. So me and my buddy Eddie, we would hang on the bars, and every time we saw a guy with a hooker, we would just be like this the whole time. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Even though they're missionaries.
We're just on the truck, and we know the story. We're all mad, right? So every guy we see that's like 50 years old with the 14-year-old girl holding hands.
Fuck you, I'm Christian. Fuck
We're like spitting at them. We're just like, fuck you, fuck you.
We only eat fish.
Latter-day Saints, fuck you.
Yeah, literally. And then we're all smoking cigarettes too, because out there you could be like 18. I mean, you don't have to be 18 to buy cigarettes. Wow. So we're just out there like fucking smoking cigarettes, like flicking at them, spitting at people. Fuck you, fuck you. And then we're going there building churches.
We've always
How many years after that did you fuck a hooker?
Oh man.
Wait a just.
probably was.
You know me.
What's the timeline?
By the way, it was in America.
I know.
Just kidding. Probably like in my 20s.
You just nullify
Less than 10,
all
less
of
than
I was
this.
14 years old.
So the fuck you became you're the fucky. You're the guy getting
Fuck me, fuck me, fuck me. That's what it came. No, yeah. It was fuck me.
As long as you've known Villain and Impact, like, did they ever mention anything that they have to do that's different because they're Hmong?
I can't believe you know people named Villain and Impact, and they're not on American Gladiators. Like,
That's their b-boy name. Their Hmong names are like Long Ku,
True, I didn't think about.
like Fuse and Nitro,
Long Ku
bro.
North,
Long Ku and Longka. Yeah.
Long Ku and Longka. Cool.
I know that they have. I think it's either their sister or their cousin. That's like a shaman.
Whoa.
Sick.
Yeah. So like, that means that there are times where they'll say like, this is a funny thing because during the pandemic I was like starting to go fishing a lot more. They're like, hey, let's go fishing. And they're like, oh, we can't go fishing during this time. But why can't you go fishing during this time? Because like my sister's a shaman and she saw an omen that for like 3 years or whatever, nobody in our family can go fishing because if you do, something bad's gonna happen to you. And something bad did happen to like their uncle or something like that who actually went fishing during that time and didn't heed the warning.
Wow.
3 years is also a giant window.
It's a huge window.
And in the next 1,000 days, anything could happen.
Yeah.
Like he probably fucked a hooker and just got AIDS or something.
And then died at the fishing hole.
And then they're like, it's probably fishing.
But during that period they didn't fish all and they loved fishing. The second that period finished, they fucking went fishing like crazy.
And then he got hurt.
We get a lot of messages for some reason I've noticed about people asking like, when are you gonna get like a Hmong dude on the show?
I don't know no Hmong dude.
I only know them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Same.
I know a guy, but he's all in the East Coast.
They're very rare. That's why like
They're not
saying Hmong. That's a deep cut. Like most people wouldn't even really know what that is.
in LA. It's hard.
Yeah, it's a deep cut.
I've heard of it before, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, it's like kind of it's very rare that anyone would kind of like really know off the
Yeah, I don't even think I met my first Hmong person until it was maybe college or out of state or something.
Oh yeah.
Fucking, Cedric, he brought us out. He's in his community. We know the casting director that did the Gran Torino. That's about Hmong people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a whole group that brought us out. That was our first JK gig.
Wow.
And it was a Hmong producer. Yeah. So the Hmong community has given a lot of love to JK.
Yeah.
And we want to give it back. We love that you guys slut shame. We love it. Let's go.